Now, universal health coverage means everyone has access to healthcare services that they need of good quality without the risk of financial hardship. That's according to the World Health Organization's report of 2007. Now, mental health being an integral aspect of overall well-being with its connection with societal issues cannot be overlooked. The intricate interplay between mental health and social factors such as poverty, discrimination, and inequality significantly impacts individuals and communities. Recognizing mental health as a social justice issue is crucial for fostering a more inclusive and equitable society. It is becoming more important to discuss the complex relationship between mental health and various social challenges, emphasizing the need for advocacy and reform to address the issues collectively. To examine the intersection of mental health and economic realities in the midst of Nigeria's economic crunch, we're now being joined by a public health expert, Dr. Jonathan Dangana. Dr. Dangana is a lecturer in the Department of Public Health, Babcock University. I want to say welcome to Horizon News Now.
Thank you.
Now let's get started by asking that you've been involved in universal health coverage and you've actually served as a technical advisor for Africa Health International Commission to examine the state of health coverage in Africa. What is the African outlook when you're looking at achieving universal health coverage? Let's start from that particular point first.
Thank you very much for that question. Amazingly, in the context of universal health, and you can see the interplay and mental health being also an integral part of achieving universal health as one of the key factors.
Okay.
In the continent of Africa, we have not done as much as we ought to do. And as a continent, the outlook is practically very poor, but all hope is not lost because there is so much more that we can cohesively and together can be able to do as a people going forward. And there are a number of factors that have contributed to seeing us being where we are instead of where we should have been. And of course, you can see that right from the immediate post-colonial era, there are chances and things that our freedom fighters who wanted us to have independence in Africa, they had their role to play, and they saw health more like a fundamental human right. But then as the years went by, we began to see more things, get eroded into the system. And I feel as a person that if we had stayed with that course of seeing health as a fundamental human right, we most likely would have been way ahead of where we are at the moment.
All right. Where is Nigeria in the outlook of coupled with the 4-point agenda of the federal government of Nigeria?
Beautifully. Thank you. Nigeria, arguably referred to as the giant of Africa. We are indeed a giant in so many fronts. And in the issue and the aspect of health, we cannot be left behind. But then the reality is that when it comes to the indices of universal health, we are not a force to be reckoned with.
True.
And of course, I love the 4-point agenda that the present leadership of the Ministry of Health has brought to bear. And one of the most important things for me is the fact that it's not a white-collared, expectation. There are 4 things very clearly. Look out for me in the next few years as I pilot the affairs of the health sector. As the minister has rightly said, he gave four major points, and those 4 points are improving governance, health security, improving population health, and of course the value chain. And if these 4 points can actually be given the appropriate attention, then I can tell you free of charge that we will become the point of reference that people will want to come and learn from. But then, putting that aside, to give an answer directly to your question, we are actually very poor down the ladder as far as addressing this. And of course, our population is also a contributory factor to what so much, even regardless of the effort that we will put in place as a country, because of our population, you wouldn't see the impact of that effort that is being put in place. But of course, I am sure that a lot of my colleagues out there and those who are in the leadership of affairs are not going to sleep. But our population, more work needs to be done going forward for us to achieve that.
All right, a place where people will say the leadership has gone to sleep has to do with health workers migration. We've spoken about this time and time again. And a lot of people have asked the question, is there an end to sight to this? Because we need these people if we're to achieve a holistic and a very boisterous healthcare system in Nigeria.
Migration of persons will continue to be a reality, that globally. And amazingly, let me put it this way, maybe because it's Nigeria, so it's important that we focus on Nigeria.
Yes.
But the issue of health migration is something that every country is being confronted with. In fact, as at September of the passing year, Nigeria alone, we have exported over 12,000 nurses. And even if all of them will return, they are still not sufficient for our population. Is there an end in sight? No way. But is there anything that we can do to cushion the effect? Absolutely. There are a number of things that can be done, should be done, to ensure that we can be able to cushion this effect. But then, of course, as an entity, that is the Ministry of Health and other active stakeholders within the interplay of that sector, there is a limitation of what you can do. You cannot tie people to a place when they are ready to move to go to where they want to go. So, but then of course, can we begin to look at a new dynamics? Is there something that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can play into this? So say, oh, okay, as we migrate people, can we have technology come in? You know, so it looks more or less like a trade by barter. After all, there are some people who have left, not primarily because of what I will call Naira and Kobo. Some is because the tools to even function appropriately is not available. So it means that if such things can be done, then that population that is living for that reason, we can be able to salvage that population. And then, of course, when that happens, then you can be able to start thinking of, okay, maybe others who are in need of money, then we can begin to think of how, you know, those individuals who fall in that bracket can be dealt with.
So what can we do differently to help the health sector in Nigeria? Because you've spoken about the fact that it's looking like the ship has sailed already in terms of those that have made up their mind and want to leave.
Yeah.
But what can we do differently so that the ones coming behind, we do not lose them also?
I think there is a need for what I will call a resensitization of nationhood. But beyond that, or before that, we must also learn to galvanize the existing structure. So, for instance, we have way before orthodox medicine came to play. What was the in thing? Okay, can we begin to galvanize our African traditional healthcare system to see that even if it means that they will be a supporting tool to strengthening our primary health care, they can help to deal with issues that have to do with some preventive care, then it means that at the grassroots level, there is something that is already existing that we are leveraging upon that can be able to boost what our outlook looks like. Because I can tell you for free that our outlook as far as health indices is concerned is super poor. Why? Quite a handful of Nigerians, whatever statistics that you may find in a hospital, you can be rest assured that there is possibly double the number of those who have not presented themselves to the hospital. However, remember also that there is also another, what I call a pseudo-health system, which are patent doctors or patent healthcare professionals. Now, these are individuals that we can bring into the pool and then try to see at what level can they be able to operate to add value to the entire system. And then, of course, you can also talk about how do we bring the private sector into this whole big picture. I often say this in my class, and I tell my students that in every remote Nigerian village that I've been opportune to step into, there is always a bottle of alcohol. But then again, in that same remote village, there is no presence of essential drug for a person who is dying. So the big question is, how can we leverage on this supply chain system that this other entity has put in place that we can also be able to leverage on to say, okay, let's use this same supply system and see how we can be able to cushion our effect and going forward. Of course, if you go into that, there are also other intricacies that are involved in ensuring, or do we even have the drugs? But can we even have the system in place? And then, of course, when the system is in place, then every other thing can begin to look into it. And then, of course, we can have active civil service, civil society, just like we have in Nigeria. How can we leverage on our civil society to hold government, to hold leadership accountable? Because quite a handful of time, you see a lot of laxity within professionals, within the system, and it looks like a norm. Until we begin to learn to hold individuals accountable, then the story will continue to be just like every other one.
All right, finally, before we wrap it up, I would like to find out from you.
Yeah.
I want to get your perspective on this. Do you think we're funding health well enough in Nigeria?
Well, that is a tough one. But the objective answer is no. It's absolutely no. We as a country hosted in 2001, which is generally referred to as the Abuja Accord. And what is the simplicity of that? Can we allocate 15% of our national budget to deal with health? Between that, when that declaration was made to date, as a country, we have not been able to achieve that. There are only 2 African countries that have been able to get to that stage. And that is, and the record have shown, those countries who have been able to do that, you will see that their own health indices are fundamentally different from ours. But can we do differently? Yes. Is the willpower there? Yes. How can we do? Until we learn to see that everyone is a human being first. It's not a matter of who can pay more. But can I see you more as a human being? And then deal with you from that perspective.
I want to say, Dr. Dangana, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here
Thank you.
on Arise News Now.
Thank you.